All right. Good afternoon. Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending today's hearing. I am filling in for Insurance Commissioner Moraine. She unfortunately could not be here today. My name is Brad Bobin. I am the Chief Actuary at the MIA. This is the Maryland Insurance Administration's last regular public hearing of 2022 on specific carrier rate increases for long-term care insurance. Today's hearing is going to focus on two sets of rate increases now under review in the individual long-term care market before the MIA. This includes requests from Life Secure Insurance Company, who is proposing an increase of 15% for all insureds under policy form LS-0002. And then also Massachusetts Mutual Life Insurance Company, which is proposing a cumulative increase of 31%. That's two 15% in a row for insureds with automatic inflation options, and 0% for insureds without automatic inflation options under policy forms MM 500-P-2-MD and MM 501-P-2-MD. So these two filings affect 662 Maryland policyholders. And as noted above, these only affect specific policy forms from each company. Each company has all other policy forms non-impacted by the requested rate increase. The purpose of this rate hearing is for the insurance companies to explain the reasons for their rate increase and for the MIA to consider whether the proposed rate increase is in compliance with Maryland's laws and regulations related to long-term care insurance. We will also listen to comments from consumers and other interested parties. We are here to listen and ask questions of the carriers and consumers regarding the specific rate increases requested in these rate filings. I would like to take a quick moment to introduce the people who are here with me from the Maryland Insurance Administration. As I already mentioned, I'm Brad Bobin. I am the Chief Actuary. With me are my colleagues, Jeff G. and Adam Zimmerman, who are both senior actuaries, who have lots and lots of knowledge about the long-term care industry and who have been working on these long-term care filings for a number of years. I'm going to go over some of the procedures that we would like to please follow today. When it is time for the public comments, we will first call on members of the public who are registered to speak in advance. To the extent that time and technology permits, the MIA will hear from unregistered participants who access the Zoom webinar platform. You can communicate with us through the chat functions. If you wish to speak, you can drop a note in the chat and we will get you on the list to speak in public comment. With the exception of the MIA staff, this hearing is not a question and answer forum. Comments from interested parties were received and reviewed in advance of this meeting. The MIA will continue to keep the record open until Monday, December 5th, 2022 for any additional written testimony. But you know, this is not a forum for the public to be questioning the insurance companies directly. You know, the insurance administration will be asking some questions, but the public is free to make any comments. The video of today's meeting, as well as all written testimony submitted either in advance or by that December 5th deadline, will be posted on the MIA's website on the long-term care page. The long-term care page can be found at the MIA website by clicking on the Consumers tab on the top of the homepage and then clicking the long-term care link under that. To help ensure excellent sound quality throughout the hearing, we ask that you please stay on mute unless you are speaking. Also, anytime before speaking, if you could restate your name and organization clearly, that'd be a great help. Thank you. We'll be asking the carriers to speak first regarding the requested rate filings. Carriers will be called on in alphabetical order. Afterwards, interested stakeholders will be invited to speak. So I will now turn it over to the insurance companies. Up first is LifeSecure. I believe Mr. Nasreen Ali is signed up to speak. Do I have the correct speaker?
This is Nasreen Ali. Yes, you do.
Oh, sorry. Hi.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Nasreen Ali, spelled A-L-I. I am an actuary in LifeSecure's long-term care insurance business. Thank you, Mr. Bilbin and the Maryland Insurance Administration team for holding today's virtual hearing and for providing LifeSecure and our policyholders an opportunity to discuss our long-term care insurance policies. I would also like to thank all the policyholders for your interest and participation. LifeSecure understands that your long-term care insurance coverage is important to you, and we welcome this opportunity to participate in today's hearing. LifeSecure understands our ability to support, service, and protect you, our policyholders, is of absolute importance. We take this very seriously and confirm our commitment to being there for our policyholders when they need us. LifeSecure acknowledges how difficult premium increases are for our policyholders, so we are committed to providing information that explains why rate increases are needed. I am here today to speak specifically about our current long-term care premium rate increase filing with the Maryland Insurance Administration, which is pending our forthcoming objection response due November 30th. This is the third filing on our first generation policy form. Of the two previous filings, one rate increase of 5% was approved in 2018. We are requesting a 15% rate increase in the state of Maryland. 15% is the maximum allowed in a year under Maryland regulation, unless an innovative landing spot option is offered. Due to administrative restrictions, we are choosing to file the 15%. Additional increases may be asked for in future years if necessary. Using the guidelines set by rate stability regulations, the calculated justifiable rate increase is 114.5% at the current Maryland rate level, making additional increases highly likely. We will continue to review our experience and assumptions to see what, if any, rate increase is justifiable in the future. Due to the delayed implementation of the fully justifiable rate increase, the ultimate average rate increase will be greater than 114.5% if experience and assumptions are consistent with what we assumed in this filing. One of LifeSecure's priorities is to ensure our claims paying ability for all of our policyholders. The rate increase request is necessary due to changes in our expectation of future claims. We recognize that the experience for this block is limited, but we want to act early to prevent larger future rate increases. We rely on industry data to set morbidity assumptions and have no reason to think that LifeSecure's experience will vary materially from the industry's. The source of our current morbidity assumptions is the same as original pricing, meaning the morbidity assumptions come from the same consultant that published the morbidity study that was used at pricing. The only difference is the date the study was performed. Ideally, this consistency helps to isolate the impact of the changing environment over time and shows us that expectations have indeed gotten worse. LifeSecure is offering options to help its policyholders cope with the rate increase. A policyholder may reduce their benefit amount, reduce or remove inflation, or remove any other rider. If a policyholder removes inflation, they can choose to keep their benefit at the current inflated level. it is only the future accruals that will cease. Finally, if a policyholder purchased the lapse protection rider, they may, of course, exercise that benefit, meaning no future premiums, rate increases, or otherwise would be due. This rate increase will impact approximately 129 Maryland policyholders. In conclusion, LifeSecure remains committed to working with the Maryland Insurance Administration to implement actuarially justified rate increases in a reasonable and responsible manner, keeping in mind policyholder interests and concerns. Mr. Bobin, LifeSecure appreciates the opportunity to participate in today's hearing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from you or members of your team.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to my team first. Jeff or Adam, do you have any questions about this filing?
Yes, I do. So last year, your company also filed a refiling to MIA, but finally we did not approve anything. But we saw this time, compared with last time, the lifetime loss ratio improved a lot. Increased a lot. Can you explain to us what caused that increment lifetime loss ratio?
We received updated morbidity assumptions from our consultant from Milliman. And we also updated our morbidity assumption to be in line with the move in industry to adopt a new mortality basis. And this combination caused an increase in our expected future lifetime loss ratio.
Okay. Last time looks like you majorly used 2017 minimum study guidelines. Now you're using 2020 minimum guidelines. Same question as the last hearing. I want to know, how do you make sure the 2020 minimum guidelines matching with your policyholder benefit utilization pattern?
We work very closely with our consultants, and they're very familiar with our benefit structures. When they provide us with those claim costs, we further make adjustments to reflect any benefit nuances for our policy.
Okay, thank you. Get back to you. Adam, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Get back to you, Brad.
Thanks. On the topic of assumptions, I guess I have a question. It looks like this is a relatively recent policy block. My records indicate that this was sold between 2010 and 2014. Is that accurate?
I believe so, but I can confirm those exact years after the meeting.
All right. So one thing that's striking me is that most of your current assumptions are very current, using tables from 2021 or even in 2022. But my records indicate that when this was initially filed, that some of the assumptions used, the original morbidity, it says, was a 2002 Milliman long-term care guidelines. And so, the consistency is nice. But I guess in retrospect, should you have been using more current assumptions back when you initially filed this? Mortality, it looks like you were using a 1994 mortality table, and that's been updated to 2021. But I guess to what degree did those initial assumptions, need to have been updated with more recent experience?
At the time we filed, we would have used what our consultants recommended and the most recent assumptions we had that reflect the industry experience at that time. And I can certainly confirm if at the time, if there were any available more recent claim costs. But my belief is that we used what was most recently available to us at the time and what reflected industry experience at that time, both in mortality and morbidity.
All right, thank you. Yeah, anything that you can get and follow up that would be interested. We would be
Absolutely.
interested to know. And then my second question was, you're asking for a flat 15% across the whole block. Have you done any experience analysis broken down by class of policyholder and looked at, those with inflation protection versus those with not, for instance, to see if, if each class of policyholders really needs this level of increase, or if some classes have better experience than the others?
Last year when we filed, not last year, in July 2017, when we filed, we did ask for a varied amount. We asked for 21% for those with the guaranteed purchase option, 43% for those with 3% compound inflation, and 92% for those with 5% compound inflation. At that point, 5% was approved. So we can break down what we need by each of those inflation options, but we are quite certain it would exceed the allowable 15.
All right, that makes sense. I'll follow up with you and surf with my team if we want to see that information. So
Okay.
it's good that you can get it. But your point is understood that it might show that 15 is needed everywhere when the overall needed is so high. All right, I think that those were my only questions at this point. So thank you very much for your testimony. And we can follow up on SURF with any follow-ups.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we have a speaker from Mass Mutual. I think it should be Mr. Roland Falthrop.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Thank you. My name is Roland Falthrop. I'm a senior actuary at Massachusetts Mutual Life Insurance Company, Mass Mutual. I'm a fellow of the Society of Actuaries and a member in good standing of the American Academy of Actuaries. At Mass Mutual, I'm responsible for the health and worksite product lines. On behalf of Mass Mutual, I'd like to thank you and MIA and for everybody else listening to this call for the opportunity to discuss Mass Mutual's rate request for an in-force premium increase on our 513 series, Signature Care 513 series individual long-term care insurance policies. Before discussing our request, I'd like to provide a little bit of background on Mass Mutual's long-term care business. Mass Mutual is a mutual life insurance company established in 1851 in Springfield, Massachusetts. We began selling long-term care insurance in 2000 with our senior Signature Care 200 series. Since releasing that first product, Mass Mutual has introduced 6 subsequent series: the Signature Care 300, 400, 500, 511, 513, and 600 series. Mass Mutual discontinued selling all standalone long-term care insurance policies in 2021. The filing we are here today to discuss pertains to the 513 rate series, which was issued in Maryland from 2013 to 2019. This is our first rate increase request made on this block of policies. We have previously requested a rate increase in 2018 on earlier issued series, 200, 300, 400, 500, and 511 series. And the MIA approved a reduced phased-in increase in 2020, which we are still implementing. The 513 series at that point in time was not included as with the nationwide rate request in 2018. We are not requesting a rate increase on the most recently issued 600 series at this time, but we'll continue to monitor that business accordingly. The 513 series has about 18,000 policies in force nationwide, and approximately 14,000 of these are inflation policies that are subject to our nationwide rate increase request. Of that amount, there are approximately 530 total policies in force in Maryland, of which 450, 85%, have inflation protection and are subject to the requested rate increase. We did not request a rate increase on the approximately 80 policies without inflation. That's 15% of the block. Consistent with what other carriers are found, and we know you have heard many times, and our emerging and expected experience is running more adverse than previously expected. More specifically, as described in our filing, which was prepared by Milliman, lower mortality and lapse rates have resulted in a much larger pool of expected LTC claims. Additionally, we expect higher morbidity, which is from a combination of the higher than expected incidence rates and longer than expected claims duration. Interest rates are not a factor in this rate request. Given these considerations, MassMutual has made the difficult decision to file for a premium rate increase on this block of business. These premium rate increases would mitigate losses expected to emerge in the future. MassMutual is not seeking to recover any past losses already incurred. Nationwide, the company is requesting a 30% rate increase for insureds with automatic inflation. As noted earlier, we are not requesting a rate increase for insureds without automatic inflation. Recognizing Maryland's 15% regulatory cap on increases, MassMutual has requested a multi-year phased-in rate increase such that no policyholder would receive a rate increase more than 15% in any single calendar year. Due to the phase-in of the cumulative rate increase request in Maryland, the total cumulative rate increase will be 31%. That's 15% in year one, 14% in the second year. So cumulative rate increase will be capped at 31% on each individual policy with inflation protection, which is actuarial equivalent to the nationwide request. As part of this request, the company is certifying that rates will remain stable under moderately adverse conditions if the rate increase is approved as requested. This means that if the rate increase is implemented and the underlying assumptions with moderately adverse conditions reflected are realized, then no further rate schedule increases are anticipated. We understand that communicating with our policyholders is an important part of this, and we have already sent a letter to notify them of our intent to file for rate increases and provided a dedicated company phone line for any customer questions. We've also engaged with our producers so that they are prepared to respond to any questions or discuss options with policyholders. Like Commissioner Bahrain in the MIA, MassMutual believes it is very important to clearly communicate to our policyholders upon a regulatory approval impacting their premiums. Once we implement any new premium rates in our administrative system, the company will send a formal increase notification at least 60 days prior to the effective date of any rate increase with a clear list of the options available to impacted policyholders. The notification period will provide policy owners time to consider their individual circumstances and options that are available to them and to make sound, informed decisions about their coverage. MassMutual is sensitive to the impact that rate increases may have on policy owners affected by the premium increases, and they will have the option of reducing their policy benefits to provide flexibility of choice for those who wish to maintain similar premium levels. the benefit reduction options available to policy owners to mitigate the proposed rate increase may include reducing the daily benefit amount, extending the elimination period, reducing the benefit period, reducing the amount of inflation protection, and or removing optional riders altogether. The company administers reduction or removal of inflation protection in a consumer-friendly manner that exceeds industry norms. Insureds who elect to reduce or drop their inflation protection keep their already inflated daily benefit amount, and their premium rates are determined using the reduced inflation option factor or their uninflated original daily benefit. MassMutual is also requested to voluntarily offer a contingent benefit upon lapse to all insureds affected by the premium increase, even if the increase is not considered substantial. In closing, MassMutual understands that rate increase request is not an ideal situation for customers or regulators. MassMutual wants to ensure this process goes as smoothly as possible for policy owners and you as the regulators, and we commit to a transparent and prompt, thorough review. Thank you for allowing me to participate in today's hearing. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to my team again first. Adam or Jeff, do you have any questions?
Yes, my question is, I heard that you said this increase does not seek any, does not recoup any past losses. But meanwhile, I saw the original price loss ratio was 65%, but after the request rate increase, the nationwide loss ratio get back to the 65%. So looks like there's some conflict between your first statement and
I'm sorry here. This policy form is our participating policy form. So the initial expected loss ratio was significantly less than 65%. It got up to 65% with dividend margin. Unfortunately, the deterioration in the morbidity has eaten through all of that dividend margin at this point in time, and which kind of leaves us in the position of requesting these rate increases. The 65% that we can get, it gets us back to kind of original pricing after the dividend margin.
So does
Okay.
that mean you intend to give dividends if you can get these rate increases approved nationwide?
We are not restoring the dividend margin. We're just trying to get back to the 65%. Again, the original loss ratio was significantly less than the 65% when the policy was originally filed. Prior to adding the dividend margin got it up to the 65%. So we are not restoring the dividend margin, and therefore dividends are not expected to be paid in the future.
Okay, my second question is, there are lots of companies offer rate guarantee to the policyholders when they do the rate increase filing. So for your company, is this, can you offer rate guarantee to the policyholders like 5 years?
So the rate increase request that we have in front of the MIA currently certifies that rates will remain stable under moderately adverse conditions. This means that the increase is approved, if approved as requested, rates are guaranteed until experience has deteriorated beyond the threshold of moderately adverse experience, as referenced in the filing. If the MIA would prefer a different type of rate guarantee, we'd be happy to discuss what that might look like once you've completed your review.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Brad, get back to you.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I mean, I think one of my concerns is that some of the assumptions don't look to be updated to super recent experience. And so it seems like there would be room for that moderate deviation to occur. I'm looking at the mortality assumption and my notes say that you're updating it to the 2012 individual annuitant mortality table. So I guess I have some concerns there with how much assumption changes could already be baked in just by updating that table to something from the last couple of years. I'm not expecting you to be able to know that quantification off the top of your head, but maybe that's something we can explore in SURF. You know, if we want to say that this is a assumption to bring rates up to where they need to be with moderate deviation, we want to make sure that the assumptions really are updated to, you know, what we think is a reasonable best estimate of the current state of affairs.
Mr. Bowman, that's a good question. The mortality assumption that we have is based on the most current individual annuitant mortality IAM table. We did include mortality improvement all the way through 2020. So we do feel confident that it is, you know, current and best estimate.
All right, that's good to hear, and yeah, maybe I can dig into more detail with that and surf with my team. But I think that would definitely be something that we would want to check assumption by assumption and make sure we don't think that, you know, there's room for any immediate updates that we want to, you know, make a good faith estimate to look at how bad things really are right now. So, you know, I can work with my team through SURF, but that's the one thing that struck me. Some of the assumptions still seem like they had a little bit of room to be updated.
Understood.
I see in the filing that there are a couple different inflation amounts, 3 and 3.5 and 5. But the bulk of the business in 3%. There's not any rate variation for the inflation options, right? You're proposing the 31% for all three of those inflation amounts.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And then to confirm, you said earlier that if somebody converted from inflation to no inflation, that they would keep the accrued value of whatever is accumulated via the inflation adjustments in the past and would just lose adjustments going forward. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Similarly, if they move from a 5% to a 3.5 or 3%, they again would keep the accrued inflation, and then prospective inflation would go with the new inflation factor.
All right, thank you. That's helpful. I don't think I had any further questions at this time. Anything else from my team? All right, thank you very much. Thank you for taking your time to go through that.
Thank you very much.
All right, at this point, this is an opportunity for the public to speak if anybody in the public was interested. I did not have anybody sign up in advance per se. I had a Mr. Irving Cohen and a Mr. Howard Benjamin express interest in attending the hearing. I don't know if either of you gentlemen are here, either if you had the desire to speak. But we're open now to any comments from the public. You know, on either of these two sets of rate increases that have been proposed. So if there's any interest, please speak now.
Brad, I opened up the telephone lines that we're seeing on the attendees. So if Mr. Benjamin or Mr. Cohen would like to speak, they probably can now.
All right, great. Thank you, Craig.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Howard Benjamin. I had no questions. I think there was a mix-up. I just said I wanted to listen in. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for listening in. I appreciate it and hope you gained some good information today.
If anyone else would like to speak, please let us know in the chat. We'll open your line.
All right, Craig, I'm not hearing or seeing any other interest. So I think with that, we can wrap up this rate hearing. As a reminder, if anybody does want to submit any comment, we are still accepting public comment through December 5th. Otherwise, we will be proceeding with our rate review. I can say there's still a bit of review to be done on all of these. And a rate decision, should be expected maybe late December, but possibly after the new year.
Brad, excuse me, someone did raise their hand in the attendees.
Oh, thank you, Craig, for catching that. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So Mr. Maucione, you can speak now.
Excuse me, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Hi, my name is Scott Maucione. I'm the health reporter at WYPR. I just wanted to clarify a few numbers. It sounds like there will be about 1,000 policyholders that are going to be affected by this in total. I just wanted to make sure that I was hearing that right and ensure that my reporting would be accurate.
I think we had a lower number of 662, but Jeff, keep me honest. Yeah, Jeff, are you there? Can you confirm that the enrollment numbers?
Oh, you're muted, Jeff.
Yes. That's the the company reported how many policyholders affected by these two rate filing requests.
Great. And then these would go into effect in fiscal year 2024, because we're already in fiscal 23 now, right?
Depend on when we will approve these two filings. So then after our approval, normally company need to take around 60 to 90 days to send the policyholder notification letter to let the policyholder make decisions. And after that, the company would start to implement rate increases.
Gotcha.
Mr. Maucione, I can follow up with you after the hearing if you like, with any other questions you have.
Yeah, that'd be great. And those were just the two that I had. So I really
Okay.
appreciate it. And thank you very much.
I think we should be able to approve these two filings first quarter next year. So 2024 would be a very, very conservative year for these two filings.
Thank you very much.
And also, Brad, looks like Mr. Fawthrop among the panelists had his hand up.
Thank you. I actually just want to make a correction just for clarity. I mentioned when we were talking about the inflation protection, the 5%, the 3.5% and 3% options. 3.5% was not an option at the time in Maryland. So that is one of our nationwide options. So in Maryland is only 5% and 3%. And just quickly from the timing, I know I'm not sure about every other company, but MassMutual implements rate increases on the next anniversary. So it takes a full 12 months to cycle through all of the policies to do all of the rate increases. So it would cross over to 2023 and 2024, subject of course to rate increase approval.
Thanks very much for those clarifications. All right, do we have any additional comments? All right, well then, thanks very much, everybody, for your time. With that, I think we can call this hearing adjourned. Everything will be posted online on our website. You will be able to watch the video within a couple days. So thank you very much, and appreciate your time today.